And we're live.
Hello. Hello. Hi, Tim. Hi, Clarice. So good to be here.
Yes, it is. And,
yeah,
well,
hi, Tim. Hi, Christelle. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
I like how we are like talking on top of each other, but hey, yes.
Oh well, we're all multitaskers. People keen to get on with the exciting interview to talk about Google, YouTube, and all that exciting stuff. So I've had the fortune of knowing Clarice for a few years now, and she is very well known as an expert in all things googly, and she's a tremendous individual as well. Can you start off by let's start off with one of these boring professional questions, but how did you end up getting into all of this stuff, helping companies with their Google and YouTube search? I mean, what was your first encounter with Google, and when did you realize that this was something that you could help businesses with?
I think my first interaction with Google, as in real interaction with Google tools, was probably Google Analytics. So back then, when I was in Singapore, I was working with Microsoft, less of web technologies in that way. It's more Microsoft proprietary things. And when I moved to London, I was working with a media company. And one of the interview questions was to look at Google Analytics data and try to analyze their websites to see how they are performing and if I was giving good recommendations. And if so, then I would be, offered the job. And so I did. So I got offered the job. And somehow I think this has probably a little bit, maybe a huge load to do with my background. So I did IT in university, and then I went on to data analysis. Like database is something that I'm very interested in, looking at data, looking at trends. And then I had a huge amount of experience with Google Analytics when I joined a company in London. And then that was it. There was Google Analytics. Then we went on to looking at like other Google things, Google search, because it's all closely related together.
Yeah.
Because, being found online is, hugely related to getting found on Google, because that's the search engine that about 75 to 80% of the online population uses.
Yeah.
And I mean, nobody wants to use something else, I'm afraid. So it's and they offer a lot of products. They are the huge player, so they offer many things that helps businesses to get leads, to be found. So getting familiar with those tools is something that's really fascinating for me. Especially understanding like the algorithm, even for Google. And I mean, YouTube is also a part of Google's property, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, they acquired because they had the foresight. So they acquired it back even before YouTube became like the go-to number 2 search engine. So understanding the algorithm, I found it really fascinating in terms of like marketing. It just seems I would say it seems like a very logical transition for me to move on to that stage from analyzing website, telling them how they can increase their traffic through like maybe search or email marketing, and then deciding that I'm tired of being the person behind the computer looking at the data and going on to actually working directly with the stakeholders to tell them this is exactly what you do, instead of being like giving passing on the message. I find it more satisfying to come up with the strategy and recommendations directly with the stakeholders.
Yes. I have kind of a 2-part question, I think. For people like me, or people who know they have to be on the internet, but we don't understand quite what SEO is. Can you explain what SEO is to us in a way that we can understand and why it's so important?
No is the answer. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'll try to simplify it as much as possible. So Google SEO. I mean, SEO. The word means search engine optimization. It just simply means what's the best way you can present yourself or your brand or your business online. So when people type certain keywords, you will be found, or your products will be found, or one of your resources will be found.
Mm-hmm.
Is that straightforward? Would that make sense?
It makes sense. And it's such an important thing that is talked about. It's always talked about, whether you're a blogger or you have your own website, you have to use the correct keywords.
Mm-hmm.
How that's actually done, I think, is where we falter. You know, the common person does not know how to actually plug in those keywords and what they actually are. So where do we find them? How do we figure this out? Or do we simply hire someone like you? I mean, how does this work?
That's a good question. Of course, the natural thing I would say, yeah, you can hire me because, that's really straightforward for me. But for those who prefer to do it yourself, let me try to simplify it. I mean, let me tell you a little story.
Okay.
So recently this year, I've helped a friend. So they have an e-commerce store. So they are basically a startup, like about a year, less than 1 year old. And they sell swimwear. So sustainable swimwear. They want to be found online. So they used to be buyers, like they buy swimsuits themselves. So when they design and launch their own products, the way they wrote their product description wasn't extremely user-friendly as well. They don't think about how they would have searched for the product themselves when they were buying the products. So when they become a business owner, suddenly they think differently. So what I think the secret, now I've revealed the secret, so to speak, is to pretend that, you are someone buying your own product. So even before you start to sell a certain product or services, and you think about how you would search for buying the swimwear in the first place, would you search for a brand that you have never heard of? So if you have a brand name, like you've never heard of the brand name, why would people go to Google and search for you? The only time they would search for your name is if they know you. So how then, if they can't search for your name because they don't know your name, what could they be searching for that would eventually lead them to you? Or to put it the other way is, what can you put out or publish on the internet so that Google thinks that the resources, for example, videos or blog posts or anything that you have that you're putting out online, would be kind of stored and registered in Google's database. So when a user is searching for that resource, not necessarily by the exact name, by maybe the benefit of knowing about your resource, it could be in your resource, you could have an answer to their question, and Google says, hey, your product or this blog post has exactly this information that this person needs. And then they will show it to them. They see one of your blog posts, then they get to know about your business and get to know about your name. And then hopefully, eventually, maybe they come to your website a few times, they do some research. If they have a critical problem, they need a solution by yesterday, then they'll contact you straight away because they like what they see. Or if not, it's not a critical problem or some budget that they need to look at. They need to look at your other competitors, and then they might come back to you again. So that's why they might contact you straight away or not.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I hope I simplify it very well. I think I might have lost my job now.
No, I'll be asking a question about a specific example later, maybe to do with llamas. But but before that, obviously, like, keywords are part of how a site ranks on Google. So when somebody types in a particular phrase, your business will appear. What other factors are important for a company in determining where their website? So let's say they're using kind of the right keywords, but are there other things about their website that could make it rank less in the ranking that maybe businesses are missing out on just because they're obsessed with keywords?
So on the other hand, if you overdo the keyword excessively, if you keep repeating the same thing all the time as if you're a robot instead of talking like a real person, trying to widen your vocabulary by using different variations of the word, I will highly recommend the thesaurus. If you can, don't keep using the same word. That will be like keyword stuffing. That's when thesaurus can come in really handy to use different variations of the word, perhaps. So you sound more human. And then, of course, if you can use associated related words, that has to do with that word. if you use it in and you interweave it within your content, within your blog posts, your articles, then that would be extremely helpful. And of course, if you could create content, not just one blog post or just 2 blog posts, maybe related content, and that's what people would normally call it, has a cluster of content. It's like building up a portfolio. You're building up a portfolio of experience, you're building up a portfolio of articles. So if you have more related, topics, subtopics written about that topics and it's linked together, then Google says, wow, okay, your portfolio is, very comprehensive. You have everything about this topic A to Z, and the way you present it makes it look like, okay, you have a very good repository there. So most of the time, if there are any articles that people are kind of searching for some answers, they will pull out one of your articles to show it to them on Google search page 1.
Okay. Why would one bathing suit business be in the number 1 search versus another one? Why would that? Is it based on views? Is it
there are a couple of factors. The number 1 factor would be if someone has been in business for a longer time than you and they have already more resources. So Google would deem, the person who has been in business or has been online for a longer time to be more established. Yeah. It's just like, for example, if you want to write like a piece of news article and then you're trying to outrank the BBC or something like that. And then it's like, of course, if BBC publishes an article or news article, of course, then theirs would likely to be on page 1. Yours would be, page 100 if you're like a new website. Yeah. So the algorithm also compares, because you have to remember, you're not the only one on the internet. It's not just you who can write blog posts. Another person, another business, 100 other businesses can produce the same blog post or a similar topic around that as well. So it's how you can create a fuller, better repository or portfolio of articles better than other people.
Okay.
Yes. And then you have to be slightly longer over time. And that's when the next part will come in, will be, that's what they call link building. I don't know if you have heard of this word before, link building. Yeah. So it's like, ranking by association. It's like birds of the feathers flock together, which I really like this. Yeah. It means if you're hanging around well-established friends or other websites that are similar to what you're doing, their website has been around longer, you say, hey, can you link to my website? Kind of thing. So it helps to add value and authority, even if you're new. If you're the new kid on the block, and then you have some association with someone who has been around longer, so they link to one of your website resources or something, then it would really be good for your website. And you can also link to perhaps more established resources online, has a resource reference that you have used there, so you're linking to them. So it makes you look like you are not making things out of thin air, because you are the new kid on the block, so they cannot really trust in this way. Like Google can't trust what you're saying right now. So you have to build your authority up. Yes.
Okay. This is interesting.
So in terms of YouTube as opposed to Google, obviously there are still keywords in descriptions in YouTube and all the rest of it, but what are the special considerations for somebody starting a new YouTube channel as opposed to a website? I mean, presumably, is Google watching, like analyzing the videos themselves and video content, and does the length of video matter and things like that?
Yes, it does. So if you're starting from scratch, don't expect your YouTube video to be ranked on Google. On the Google search, you have the tab, you have the normal one, and then you have the videos tab. Yeah. So you wouldn't be ranked there when you have like 0 videos, or you have 2 videos and you have like 10 subscribers. Forget about it. However, what happens is, as you build up your channel, you're getting more and more subscribers. You're publishing more and more videos, preferably around the same topic. Okay, I'll repeat that. That's content clusters. So before that, I was talking about blog clusters. Now you have video clusters, which is about the same topic. So you establish your channel to be maybe the top resources for maybe 2 to 3 topics. That's what you want to do. And then when you get enough traffic to those videos, then then Google will actually compare the performance of your video with other channels, videos of the same topic. And once you've reached a certain threshold, there are no specific numbers. That also depends on which area, which industry you are creating videos about. If there are, numerous videos, then you need to compete with more videos to get to the top of YouTube search and eventually maybe on Google search results. But if you have less competition, you are creating a channel that, maybe there are only 1 or 2, 3 established channels. The rest are just, they have only maybe less than 100 views or so. So it will be easier for you to establish a channel that has maybe 1,000 subscribers or 500 views. Then you can easily outrank those. And once you reach that authority, then Google will start considering your video to appear in search, Google search video results. So, sometimes when you search, a YouTube video might appear as well on the results page. Yeah. And then you might have noticed the next time when you search, go to Google, and then you see the results that you're searching for. Click on those videos that appear on page 1 and go and look at how big that channel is, how many views on average they have for each of their video, and then you'll get what I mean. So if they have only 10 subscribers, they will not be on page 1. They will likely have a couple of thousand subscribers, and then on average, at least a few hundred views for each of their videos.
Okay.
Yeah, because the thing is, actually, this all goes back to Google or YouTube wants to show users videos that are useful for them and they are trustworthy.
Yeah.
So they gauge it as if more people have watched them, if more people have shared them or interact, it means that this is something that could be useful for other people too.
Okay.
And that's how the algorithm works, so to speak. They're working on trustworthiness and value.
Now, does the amount of times a video has been watched take precedence over how many followers a video might have?
Yes, the video views of the video matter. So they could have one video that is super popular, but might not necessarily increase the subscribers of the channel individually. I mean, does not affect like a tremendous boost suddenly. So you might have noticed there are some channels which have certain videos which are doing better than others because maybe they produced that one video that was really popular. The rest of the videos on that channel has nothing to do with that viral video that they have. So people might not necessarily subscribe to it. So that wouldn't. Yeah. So YouTube has also officially announced that they judge each video performance by itself. So even if you have 3 popular videos, your next video needs to be actually has good of quality as your previous videos. You can't think that, of course, if you have 3 videos and then now you produce a shitty one, so to speak, and expect it to be shared. So you need to always make sure the quality is ensured.
So you're saying quality over quantity, because there was a mindset where you just need to get videos out every day or whatever it was. But it indeed has to be, don't just put it out, make sure it's quality.
Yes, especially if it's a new one. Because remember, if you have a new channel, you're starting from zero. If you put videos out every day, you're not even promoting it, you're just putting things out. Who are you expecting to watch those videos? So if nobody's watching, then, for example, like if you're publishing videos every day on YouTube, so YouTube wouldn't know who will be interested in your videos at all. So if they don't know, then they also can't really help you to recommend to everybody else. So if you're a new channel, the important part is actually to produce high quality videos as much as possible. High quality meaning of value, and it's useful for some people. It doesn't mean you have to use the most expensive camera around. It just means that you have to say something that's important. Someone will go, "Oh, I didn't know about that," something to that effect. "Oh, that was a really good example," or something like that. And I have to share this with someone else, something along those lines. Then that's going to be useful. And once you accumulate enough watch time, so enough people have watched those videos, then YouTube would have understood your channel. What is it about? Who else could be interested? Then they will start promoting it.
Yeah. So I feel that like niching or however you want to pronounce it is very effective. So for example, this channel, we interview people about all sorts of weird topics. And that's probably not ideal for our YouTube thing. But if we just talked about SEO and that was all we did shows, and then the channel would do better. Is that kind of a generally right way of thinking about Google and YouTube search, as in like the more specific you can do as a topic, the better you're going to do?
Yes, Tim. I'm so glad that you have been listening the entire time.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a rebrand. Is that what you're saying, Tim?
No, it's kind of.
The thing is, the style that you both of you have right here is really good, especially if your channel is really big. So they would like a variety of certain topics and things.
Yeah.
Maybe this is what you have seen what big channels do, because then you have grown big enough. So you have like a different, groups of people who are interested in different things. So that will be more easily. But as a start, I always advise clients to niche down, because that's the only way you can rank faster. I would say you can still rank if you keep promoting it. It will grow, but the speed would be slower, I would say.
Okay.
Right. This is the question that you've been waiting for, or not, as the
Oh,
case
no.
may be.
What?
Let's use the case example that Christelle is going to start a llama farm.
I am. I am, Tim.
I've made this joke in this suggestion in various shows, and she approaches you. She's starting a llama farm, and it's not one that people are going to eat the llama. The llamas are basically there as a tourist attraction, so people can kind of visit the llamas and take and it's probably more alpacas. We've discovered alpacas over the years seem to be more nicer animals than llamas, but they say she's got a llama and alpaca farm, and she approaches you and like, how do I make people know about this new llama farm that I've started in San Diego? How do I promote it online with blog posts and video? What should be her content strategy to be successful?
So of course, the first thing you would need to do is probably register yourself on Google My Business.
Oh, wait, I never knew about this. What is this?
Oh, it's like having a physical location, because you want people to come to your farm. So you need to put your address out there, and then you can put interesting things like family day out, kids day out, or llama ride for the 3-year-old or something like along those lines.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little thing that shows on Google Maps, isn't it? Like
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So you want to be there, definitely. You want to register yourself. Otherwise, if people can't find you, then they can't drive to your farm and play with those animals. So that would be good, So you could even have a schedule for planning, feeding time, maybe sleeping time, playing time, riding time. It's lots of things. And I would definitely recommend a YouTube channel for you to start with that. So that would be kind of interesting. I'm hoping that at some point you might also have other animals, but you could start with having llamas first.
Well, it's niching. It's hyper niche.
Yeah, I know. That's why you start with that. So you could share interesting facts, like for example, when you bring the llamas out for a walk, perhaps, and talk about their food that they eat.
Yeah.
Or what you shouldn't give llamas to eat. Maybe they will have an upset stomach or something like that. So that would be fun. And some form of like interaction that you have. Maybe you have names for those llamas too, so you can talk about it. It's like making it like a story. So it's like making them feel connected to the llama. So that would be kind of interesting, probably like for kids and things like that, for the parents. So that could be something like to market to people. So when they see the animals, maybe they hear the animals, things like this. So this would make them feel like, oh yes, I want to visit this because it looks really interesting, or they can ride on the llama, or, certain feeding time. Like, okay, this is what we do during our feeding time between this time to this time. We have visitors coming, and then kids can, feed them. Maybe you can even film, like if you have kids that you can borrow from the neighbors for the video.
I think Christelle's got one kid. She could be
I have one. Getting older. I might need some more.
Yeah. So the idea is to like, oh look, some kid watched it. Oh look, mom, I want to feed that llama too. Can we visit? Oh yes, it's just like 50 kilometers away. We can drive there.
Yeah.
So it kind of would be really helpful for them to get to know maybe the animals, nature walk. So there could be other activities that you could also plan around for llama. So, the lifestyle, maybe they're breeding where they come from. Do you breed them yourself? So there are various things that you can, or for example, also if they are, giving birth, maybe people could be interested in that. It's like a documentary kind of video. So people who are interested in those animals, then they will be interested to come. And eventually, once it has grown to be a really good channel with all the possible topics about llamas, then you could have other animals. So
yeah, but how would she go about? I mean, obviously, like llama farm would be a keyword. I mean, keywords they're often phrases, really, aren't they?
Yes.
She wouldn't just be trying to get number one for people typing llama into Google. It would be llama farm San Diego or something like that. How do you come up with those? How do you work out what a good keyword is for your business in terms of helping it rank?
So the first thing, you can do something simple. If you don't want to subscribe to any tools, you can just go to Google. So when you type in like llama farm San Diego, you can see if there are other related search terms that people are searching for as well. Maybe they want to look at llama farms to visit, or llama farm summer holiday camp for kids, or something along those lines. So like a family day trip, something around there. So it would ideally, of course, have the word San Diego in it, because you want people to come to visit. So you would need to have that as well, and that would be extremely good for ranking in San Diego area. I'm hoping there are no other competitors llama farms nearby. So
we can take them on.
Yes. Yeah, so that will be something that you can show them, make them feel excited about wanting to visit.
Okay. So would that go in the description of the video that you're making? Do you use hashtags?
Yes.
Is it this actual description?
Yes, you should also put that ideally into every description of your video as well. At the bottom, like, okay, we are located here. If you'd like to have a visit, we have this, you can visit. See, in your video, when you talk about, feeding the llama, or like, they are birthing, or, what food do they eat, or, how long do they need to rest for. So after your video description, you have bottom, there's loads of space. I think 5,000 characters. So the remaining after the description, you can put down, where we are located, come visit us. This is our location. If you want to find out more, we are also on Google Maps. You can put a link there so people can go to it. So each of your videos. So after watching any of your videos, they can click down to the description and then head on to more resources, like how to get there, what other activities that you have. So it could be on your website, or it could be all this information on Google My Business. Thing location, it pops up on the map, so they can also see what things, like for example, they can now there is Google has also just launched a new services which enables local businesses to directly book a visit if they want to. So if you have certain software, so they have partnered up with numerous booking software, so they can also book directly a visit if you want. So you can integrate that into that service, and then they can click and book their thing. So it's kind of less friction on your part to manage those bookings as well.
Wow. Okay. Clarice, I have one of our last questions, I think. Are we able to hire you, or are you working directly for a business currently?
So I work I work directly with the business. So I'm the agency owner myself. So sometimes I work with also freelancers. So if you're looking for SEO help, so you can approach me, and then we can talk about what kind of SEO services you would need, whether it's to kind of grow a YouTube channel, whether it's to grow a successful blog that attracts more customers, or making your online presence with like Google My Business, or like even selling e-commerce products. That's something I specialize in, helping you to get on Google and YouTube page 1. That's the goal.
Yeah. This is so important for all businesses, and also nonprofits and community type businesses.
Yes, definitely.
It's very important.
Yes.
Where can we find you?
Right, so you can find me on claricelin.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Twitter and Instagram as well. My handler is I am Clarice Lin. So I think, yes. That's about it. Yeah.
It's
I also have a YouTube channel. Too.
Yeah. You scan the QR code, that'll take you to the show notes where I think I've got your Twitter. I haven't got your LinkedIn. I need to add your LinkedIn, but I've got your website and I've got your Twitter handle on there. So
good.
So
any more questions, or have we come to the end of this?
Well, that's what I'm trying to work out. Do I ask you just some sort of other weird question, or do we just do we finish?
I was waiting. I was waiting for Tim for the big conclusion.
Yeah. And we got a view. After all this time, we got a viewer. We always get a viewer right towards the end of the show. It's like sometimes though, Facebook has had thousands of comments and it's only shown us right at the end. So I'm not sure that SEO is one of those subjects which is really important to business owners, and yet every business owner tends to ignore it.
It's so important. Yeah. The last company, I'm going to say this really fast. The last company I worked for, our marketing person was able to get us to be the #1 search on Google for San Diego nonprofits. We came up as #1, and that was just brilliant. I had never seen that before. So the importance of this, I cannot even state, especially when you're trying to raise money or bring volunteers in or whatever you're trying to do. So it's not just businesses, it's nonprofits, it's across the board. So very important. But yeah.
Right. On that note, we will finally get around to the conclusion. Hopefully on YouTube, and I always get this wrong because it's mirrored, but in the corner, somewhere probably above Clarice's head, there will be an end card thing that appears that will allow you to subscribe to the channel if you want to. And see everybody next week as I try and work out how to... oh, yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This is terrifying for me.
I've made more money in the last 3 years than I did in the previous 7.
Cliche shit,